This is a huge tax provision that allows small business owners to keep more of their own hard-earned money in their pockets and in their business, right? They use this money to create new jobs, to buy equipment, to maybe upgrade their facilities, provide new benefits to employees. So losing the ability to put this money back into the business will be very hard. And I think we were disappointed that the president did not mention this crucial tax policy for small businesses.
The Small Business Rundown is the official podcast of the National Federation of Independent Business, the member-driven voice of small business. NFIB and our members advocate to keep America's small businesses strong and independent in Washington, D.C., all 50 states, and the nation's courts.
Welcome to the Small Business Rundown, a biweekly podcast with information on independent businesses' victories and challenges in Washington, D.C. and state capitals. I'm Adam Temple, NFIB Senior Vice President of Advocacy. The State of the Union address took place on March 7th. And here to respond and provide insights on the small business issues mentioned in the State of the Union address is NFIB President Brad Close. Brad, welcome back to the Small Business Rundown.
Thanks, Adam.
Brad, NFIB recently released a top 10 priorities for 2024 list. Were any of those small business priorities mentioned in the State of the Union?
Yeah, well, I think unfortunately, no, they were not. I think from a small business perspective, there were some things we'd hoped to hear, specifically on lowering taxes for small businesses and also reducing the regulatory burden that most small businesses currently face. And those were not brought up in a way we would want to hear them.
Brad, what do you think are the most important small business issues the president failed to mention during the speech?
Yeah, I think number one, there's a looming tax hike coming on small businesses at the end of 2025. Currently, most small business owners enjoy a 20% deduction on their business taxes, the small business deduction. This expires at the end of 2025. This is a huge tax provision that allows small business owners to keep more of their own hard-earned money in their pockets and in their business, right? They use this money to create new jobs, to buy equipment, to maybe upgrade their facilities, provide new benefits to employees. So losing the ability to put this money back into the business will be very hard. And I think we were disappointed that the president did not mention this crucial tax policy for small businesses and pledge that his administration would make it permanent.
And a top priority for NFIB is to make the small business deduction permanent. Where does that effort currently stand? And for those that are listening, what can they do to advocate to make the small business deduction permanent?
So currently, we have a bill in the House and the Senate with sizable numbers of co-sponsors. And we also are doing a petition drive across the country. We have over 49,000 small business owners that have signed a petition urging Congress to make this provision permanent. Making it permanent is crucial because small business owners need to know how to plan for their taxes. They don't just make equipment purchases or create jobs based on a whim. They need to know that money is coming into the business to do the things they need to do. And having this tax provision made permanent, they know would let them keep this money in their business going forward would be significant. So we are urging Congress right now to make this permanent, to get it done, not wait till the end of 2025 to do it, but do it now. So if you go to NFIB's website, you can find plenty of information on the small business tax deduction, how to stop the massive tax hike on small business, and also sign the petition, which will go to your legislator.
All right, and we'll include links in the show notes that goes to those resources that Brad's talking about so that folks can do that. Brad, there was also discussion during the speech about Americans starting small businesses. At the same time, from our own research, we see that optimism about the future can sometimes be mixed among existing small business owners. So what gives there? What is the dynamic between those opening and then those that have already opened and are trying to operate their business?
Yeah, well, I think like most Americans, small business owners are feeling the pinch of inflation. That's something that's shown up for about the last 3-4 years in our economic surveys. It significantly is hurting job creation. It's hurting small business growth, the ability to provide new benefits and all that for employees. Americans are dealing with this around the kitchen table as well, too. So that's the top issue. So I think until that goes away, it's going to be awfully hard for some of the things that the administration wants to have happen.
Right. And what hurdles do small businesses continue to face?
Yeah, outside of inflation, which is still their number one challenge, job openings are at a record high still. And most small business owners are having a very hard time finding qualified applicants for those job openings. They want to grow. They want to do more. But until they can find workers, they can't do it. And that's been a recurring problem, really hand in hand with the rise of inflation.
And President Biden also mentioned in his speech about family farms, he said, because of my investments, family farms are better able to stay in the family. NFIB works regularly with a lot of family farms around the country. Many members of ours own family farms. Is this a sentiment that's shared? What are the challenges they have faced, and what have you noticed as a change over the years in family farming community?
Yeah, I think, sometimes government and politicians tend to think doing things means creating new government programs or shoveling money at things. A lot of times it means making sure government gets out of the way of small businesses. And for family farmers, I think reduced regulations would go a long way to helping them run their business. You know, the administration has been a very, very strong proponent of the waters of the U.S. rule, which would devastate a lot of family farms, make their land unfarmable. This is an administration policy that directly hurts family farms. So when you look at what administration says they want to do and what they do, you have to look at their actions, not just listen to their words. And so I think on regulatory policy, they have not always been a friend of family farms. And then we also, you know, along with the small business tax deduction that expires at the end of 2025, the death tax is going to revert to its pre-2017 limits, which is going to significantly lower the amount of an estate that can be tax-free. And so for a family farm, that's significant because much of their assets is all tied up in the land, which can be quite valuable even if they're not making a whole lot of money farming it. And that hurts family farms down the future and will prevent them from passing that business on to the next generation.
When the president turned his attention to Congress, he urged them to pass the PRO Act for workers' rights and also to raise the federal minimum wage. How would these two actions that he's asking Congress take, how would that affect small businesses?
Yeah, I think if the president had spent a little more time explaining what these two policies would do, the reaction might be a little different. The PRO Act has been around for decades, and this is an effort by labor unions, primarily big labor unions, to get rid of the secret ballot in union elections. And the reason they want to do that is it'd be much easier for them to unionize a business where the workers may not want to join a union, but would be susceptible to pressure when their vote is made public rather than having a secret ballot. So from a small business owner's perspective, it's a horrible policy, and it takes voting protections away from their workers. The minimum wage, you know, this is an emotional issue. Most people workers want people to earn more money. From a small business owner perspective, they can only pay employees what they have coming in, right? They need income. They need resources coming into the business before they can increase wages, before they can create a new job. So when the government decides that they want to raise a wage threshold to create a new level of minimum wage, something has to give because most businesses don't have those resources coming in. So that usually means that hours are going to get cut, jobs are going to get eliminated, job creation slows down. And for consumers, you're going to see a higher cost of the goods. Now, we're already all experiencing that with inflation. And then you can look at the federal government increasing the minimum wage is going to add to that. So, you know, if you're getting a pizza from a local mom and pop pizza shop, that $20 pizza, are you still going to buy it when it's $30? Right. That gets hard for the consumer as well.
Yeah, good point. Whether it's the administration or members of Congress, we hear a lot about being a supporter of small business. Everybody wants to be friends of small business. And as far as the actions that they take, what can they do? Again, like I said, the administration, members of Congress, other elected officials, but to demonstrate their support to strengthen small businesses.
Yeah, I think for folks listening, you know, for small business owners and all, it's always a good reminder to not take politicians at their word, no matter what party they're in. Look at their actions, look how they vote, the bills they sponsor, the policies they push. That will tell you, do they really mean what they say? Have they done what they say they're going to do? I think when you look at what they can do, a lot of times with Washington in particular, it's what they can't do or shouldn't do. Politicians tend to want to do more, but really doing no harm is a good policy for government, especially when it comes to small business owners. And a great example of that is regulations. Adding regulation on regulation for small business owners is very hard. It impedes small business job growth, job creation of new small businesses. Small business owners, families always, run all these businesses. The husband and wife are doing not just running the business, but they're also looking at regulations. They're doing the taxes. They're working on all these different things. There's no way small businesses can keep up with a crush of regulations. So one of the best things government can do is just slow down, stop doing more, and sometimes doing no harm is the best policy.
I think it's a good reminder. Brad, before we go, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think really for small business owners listening, we talked a little bit about our top legislative priority going forward, and that's the small business tax deduction. We want to make that permanent. Most small business owners out there are benefiting from this. It's line 13 on last year's tax return if you want to see how you benefited from that. Mm-hmm. This allows you to keep more of your own hard-earned money in the business so you can do the things you need to do for your business. We're pushing hard. It expires at the end of 2025, and if it is not made permanent, small business owners are going to face a massive tax hike when this expires. So we need help. We want you to talk to your legislator, go to our website, fill out the petition. We'll make sure your legislators know how you feel.
All right. We'll leave that there. Brad, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Adam.
Listeners can find out more information about the small business deduction at smallbusinessdeduction.com. Our next episode premieres on April 4th and will provide expert tips for a seamless tax season this year from a small business owner and an NFIB expert. We'll be answering questions from our listeners regarding taxes, so if there's anything you'd like us to answer, send us an email at podcast@nfib.org. And now I want to thank you, the listeners, for joining us on today's Small Business Rundown. We'll be back every 2 weeks bringing you news and analysis from Washington, D.C. and state capitals so that you, whether you're a business owner or a supporter of one, can continue to blaze a trail.
The Small Business Rundown is brought to you by NFIB, the voice of small business. You can find us at nfib.com and on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.